On the equinoxes, on March the 21st and September the 21st, these pyramids cast a giant shadow straight along the axis, which made them the perfect clock for a people who were obsessed with the measurement of time and of precession.
As if tapping some common source, ancient civilizations around the world display sophisticated knowledge of the heavens, which has yet to be explained. A fascination for the sun and stars and for precession, the slow, relentless movement of the earth, which make the constellations seem to travel through the night skies and epochs.
Scholars say that the ancient Egyptians did not have a high knowledge of astronomy, but here is evidence of their fascination and sophisticated knowledge of the sky. Look at the zodiac constellations: Leo, Taurus, Pisces, and here the constellation of Orion.
Boval believes astronomy is a key to the many mysteries of the pyramids of Giza. Ancient Egyptians saw the constellation of Orion as their god Osiris, lord of the dead, the night skies, and the afterlife. Boval found the god in evidence all over the Giza pyramids.
This is the real mystery.
Small shafts leading upward, no more than ventilation shafts to Egyptologists, but astronomers thought differently. To ancient Egypt, this was Rostau, gateway to the netherworld, kingdom of the god Osiris, or Orion.
To the ancient Egyptian, Orion was Osiris, the high god of resurrection. Now, this is a reconstruction of the sky in 2500 BC, and I was amazed to discover this.
The shafts led up to Orion and the star Sirius, or Isis, consort of Osiris. In ancient texts, Boval finds they must have served in a secret ceremony to make dead pharaohs resurrect as stars in the constellation of Orion.
One of these texts says, "May you traverse the winding waterway, the Milky Way, and may you go to the place where Orion is."
Boval believes that Osiris had such crucial importance to the builders that they constructed the Giza pyramids precisely like the three stars in Orion's belt. Phenomenal as it sounds, that correlation was only the beginning. He found the ancients had given star names to two other contemporary pyramids nearby. He then looked at the wider plan and was staggered. The constellation of Orion, the god Osiris, lay in heaven as on earth. Mexico, where Teotihuacan presents another parallel.
Legend calls this the city of the gods and suggests that its purpose was to transform human beings into heavenly beings. As in Egypt, with the pyramids of Giza, the myths speak of its meaning as reincarnation in the stars. That's the secret of Teotihuacan. But an even greater enigma lies in the pyramid up above me. When it was first excavated in 1906, they discovered an enormous sheet of mica. Now, we know that mica is used in electrical insulation, but we've no idea what they wanted to use it for. What makes it even stranger is that the mica came from Brazil. Imagine the problem of moving a 90-foot square sheet of mica 2,000 miles. How and for what purpose? We've simply no idea.
Tiwanaku, Bolivia. Another lost culture betraying that same fascination with the sun and stars. 100 years ago, Bolivian archaeologist Poznansky observed that on the first day of spring, the sun rose exactly through the center of the temple. It was the starting point of a remarkable discovery.
Poznansky found they built this temple as an observatory, a huge clock to measure the progression of the sun. and we can use these astronomical alignments to date this site.
Throughout the year, the sun rises in a different spot on the horizon. On the first day of spring, an observer would see the sun rise exactly in the centre. By studying the layout of the complex, Poznański deduced that on the first days of winter or summer, the sun would rise above the cornerstones. But it didn't. Archaeologists today say it's simply because the builders made an error in construction.
After observing the perfection with which this site is built, with 100-ton stones, to suggest that such things as the solstice markers are misaligned, I find incredible.
Neil Steed made a thorough check of Poznański's calculations. By measuring the angle of the cornerstones and comparing that angle with today's sunrise positions, Poznański was able to calculate that Tiwanaku was built 17,000 years ago. At that time, the tilt of the Earth's axis was slightly different than it is today. At that date, the summer and winter suns would have risen directly above the cornerstones.
I would suspect the date would be more like 12,000 years ago. But that should make each and every one of us fully question the origins of civilization.
Did a civilization lost in time leave its fingerprints in various places in the world? Egyptian priests told the Greek philosopher Plato of such a civilization which had existed 12,000 years ago. But according to science, mankind emerged from the Stone Age some 5,000 years ago. Could man have made that climb before? In Egypt, investigator John West found that the Sphinx of Giza wasn't weathered in the same way as its surroundings, eroded by sand and desert winds. Instead of horizontal weathering, the Sphinx shows rounded, undulating marks of erosion.
You don't even have to be a geologist to look at it and see what must have been responsible for that kind of weathering. Only water pouring in sheets over the enclosure wall could have produced those rounded contours.
Water? In the Sahara Desert? Certainly not in the times of the pharaohs. For that, you'd have to go back all the way to the end of the Ice Age, some 10,500 years BC, thousands of years before there were any pharaohs at all. But how is it then that the Sphinx has a pharaoh's head?
The head is disproportionately small. Seen especially from the air, you see that the body of the Sphinx is long and flattened out, and the head almost looks like a